Okay, so we were talking about. Oh, you were in the war doing radio.
Yeah, I spent all my time in Korea, carrying pretty much on the front lines the whole time I was in Korea back then.
So you were there just 1 year, and then you went back home.
Then I came back. Yeah, they you only you had a certain length of time you had to stay there, and then they rotated. We're supposed to stay there 9 months, and we went in reserve there at one time for a month, and somebody put a shape charge underneath the company commander's or the battalion commander's bed and blew him through the roof, and it stopped rotation, and so I ended up staying there 2 years, 2 months longer than I was supposed to.
Oof.
So I was there for about a year.
Yeah.
And then I shipped back to the United States and spent a couple of months till about my 21 months we were drafted for at that time.
So what'd you do back in the States then?
Just waited to get out.
Oh.
Yeah. By the time I got back in the States, I only had, it was
You
about
like
2
on
months.
base doing exercises?
I went to Fort Ord,
Yeah.
and not no, what's the name of that fort? Camp.
Where was
I
it?
only had a couple months to go, and I just kind of they let me just
Yeah.
kick back for a month more or less.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do anything.
So what'd you do when you got out?
When I got out, I went back to cowboying,
Okay.
and then I was messed around with racehorses and different things. And
When did you meet Betty? How old were you?
I was let's see, I was 21. I was 20. Oh, 21, 22, 23. Gosh, how old was I?
Early 20s?
Yeah, I was early 20s.
How did you meet her?
I was at the drive-in one night, and there was a bunch of kids there, and we got to talking, and she stole one of my shoes. I don't know why I had my shoes on, but she stole one of my shoes.
From a complete stranger?
Well, we just met, and there was a bunch of kids there, and we were horsing around doing stuff, and I had my shoes off, I guess, and she got one of my shoes and ran off with it, and I had to run her down, and we just got acquainted,
Wow.
and then I quit. I had to get some kind of a occupation to where I could make a living, Cowboying wasn't too much, and so I started cutting meat. Started as an apprentice meat cutter.
Where at?
I started in Orange, California,
Mm-hmm.
and we got. I worked for a couple of months, and then we were engaged, and then we got married, and we moved down to Orange there. I lived in Corona at the time, and that's where I went to school and everything. But when I went to cut meat, I was down in Orange, California. It's down by Santa Ana, and down in that area. And I went through my apprenticeship down there. Got to be a full-fledged meat cutter. And when I did, I quit cutting meat, went back to, wanted to go back to cattle, on horses and everything. And I went back, and then we went broke, and I went back and forth between cutting meat and riding horses and running cattle and everything for about 4 years. And finally, we ended up moving up here and buying this place.
In Oakdale.
Yeah. We had sold a place down, we were living down in the Corona area,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd sold a house down there and enough money to put the houses that went up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think we bought that house for $32,000, and we ended up selling it for $64,000.
Was that when you moved into this one that you're at now?
Yeah, we moved up here and we had like $30,000,
Yeah.
and I put down a couple thousand.
Had they already built this, or did you build it?
I built it.
You built. So it was just the land you bought.
There was a mobile. There
A
was
mobile.
A double wide mobile here. That's part of that now,
Mm-hmm.
And And we came up here and I bought this, and then eventually I put this other part on it and made it more or less a house out of it, and built this here and built the barn and just built this place up for nothing.
Yeah.
And I went to cut meat up here. Worked for Save Mart for 20 years up here.
Yeah.
And I retired. And then I went back to cowboying when I retired. And I cowboyed for about 15 years. There was 4 or 5 of us that just cowboy day work and all that kind of stuff. And I had horses and broke horses and rode horses and run cattle and everything. And that's where I'm at now, really.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
5.
5.
Yeah. We got
Too many grandkids?
oh God, we got last count was about 25.
Yeah. So you're still out and about doing all the cowboying. You're doing your ranch, your horses, right?
Yeah. Well, I had a pretty bad sick spell a couple of years ago, 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and they thought I was going to die. I mean, they said I was going to die,
Oh.
and I got found the right doctor, and he says, "You're not going to die." He says, I went to this doctor, and I was dying, and in fact, they put me through. There's a big tube they put you in. I don't know, you've never been in one. Well, they run you in there, and they take all kinds of pictures
Yeah.
of you in there. And I came back out of that, and there was 2 doctors standing there, and they said, one said the other, "He can make it." They didn't know I could hear him, and I give him a week, he said, and they said, "No use doing anything." And I didn't get scared. I said, "Well, hey, this is going to be a new experience. I'm going to die and see what happens." Anyway, at that time, Kurt was leading me around. I didn't know where I was.
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 85.
All right.
Yeah, 85 was 85 this year. Anyway, I went to this one doctor. I had trouble with my breathing because I smoked too much when I was young, and I'd been going to him for my breathing, and I had an appointment with him every 6 months. Well, that appointment came up right after they told me I was going to die. These people came up on me.
Mm-hmm.
And they called me and told me I had an appointment with him. And I didn't even know where I was going. Kurt took me down there, and he came in, and this doctor, he's an older doctor, and kind of a general doctor. Breathing and stuff was his main deal. But he took one look at me, and he says, "What in the hell is wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, they say that, I'm going to die. I've got cancer in my lungs." And he says, called the nurse in, and he says, "Go get these records." And they can just phone and they can get all of your records in about 15 minutes.
Mm.
And she came back with his stuff, and he started going through it. He says, "Oh, they didn't. Oh, they didn't. Oh, no." And finally he checked me over a little bit. He says, "Okay," he says, "here's a prescription. Go have it filled and come be back here in the morning at 8 o'clock. And I said, "What in the world?" And walked out. That's all he said.
What?
And I stumbled out and came home. And,
Uh-huh.
and so the next morning, my son Kurt took me back down there. And we went in and we sat in there. The nurse took us in. And this doctor walked in. And we did. I said, "Wait a minute." I says, "What's wrong with me?" He says, "You got pneumonia." I says, "I got pneumonia?" He says, "Yeah, you got pneumonia. They said they think you got cancer in your lungs and you're going to die." He said, "You're not going to die." He says, he gave me a treatment, and he says, "This prescription," he gave me another prescription, and he said, "You'll have this one filled and come back in a week." And time I came back, I came home and we started taking this
Mm-hmm.
deal. And time I went back in a week, I was